Hello, great people. The Department of State Security, popularly called the DSS, has sued Professor Utomi for forming a shadow government. The DSS is arguing that the formation of a shadow government is an usurpation of the powers of the president. Is this truly the case? People are asking questions, and there have been a lot of debate as regards the legitimization of the formation of a shadow government or not. People are even asking, what is the shadow government? Because the term seems to be a relatively new term in our political space. So on this episode of Politing with your short plug Dr. Omosholadeji, we'll be looking at what is a shadow government, what is the function of a shadow government, does a shadow government usurp the powers of the incumbent government, does it delegitimize the incumbent government, what is the extent that the incumbent government can go, and is it ideal for the incumbent government to be afraid of a shadow government? We'll be looking at all the necessary issues and features of a shadow government on this episode with your short plug, Dr. Omosholadeji. First, what is a shadow government? For you to understand what a shadow government is, you first need to take the word shadow, then you take the word government. Now, the word shadow will help you out in the sense that when you are in a place of light reflection, your shadow, look at what your shadow does. When you move, your shadow move. When you act, your shadow act. So you dictate what your shadow will do. So in other words, in a shadow government, the action of the shadow government is largely determined by the step that the incumbent government takes. It's largely determined by what the government does. Don't forget that a shadow government is usually composed by the opposition party, which is a shadow government, in the sense that, let's say you have a minister of finance, there will be a shadow minister of finance. You have a minister of budget, there will be a shadow minister of budget, and the shadow minister of finance is meant to be looking into the affairs of the incumbent minister of finance and be suggesting way forward. So if the minister of finance is suggesting that the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for example, should go and borrow 50 billion US dollars, if the minister of finance, the president should go and borrow 50 billion US dollars, then the shadow minister is bound to come in and suggest ways at which we can earn a revenue without borrowing that 50 billion US dollars. Or do we really need 50 billion US dollars? And what can government do in the future to make sure that 50 billion dollars is not borrowed, that Nigeria will be self-sufficient? So a shadow government is meant to bring about a new perspective. It is more about criticisms and suggestions. But the thing is that the shadow government is common to the parliamentary system of government. And you know, in Nigeria, we practice the presidential system where power resides with the president. The president is the head of state and the head of government. So the parliamentary system is otherwise. So a shadow government is mainly common to a parliamentary system, and that's why you will see that most people are not aware of the term shadow government. People are asking, what is the shadow government? So a shadow government is not to delegitimize the incumbent government. A shadow government is not to threaten the incumbent government. It is to bring about new perspective. It is to criticize the actions of the government, and also the shadow government can also share new perspective. Now, the difference between your shadow and a shadow government is that your shadow cannot suggest new things to you, but in a shadow government can critique and go ahead to suggest new ways to the president. So in a society that accountability is cherished, a shadow government is indeed not a bad thing. And if you look at it, let me give you one of the definitions of a shadow government. I'm trying to fish it out here. For instance, it says, a shadow government, also referred to as cryptocracy, secret government, or invisible government, is a family of theories based on the notion that real and actual political power resides not only with publicly elected representatives, but with private individuals who are exercising powers behind the scene, beyond the scrutiny of democratic institutions. According to this belief, the official elected government is subservient to the shadow government, which is the true executive power. So a shadow government does not have an executive power. It is just like a shadow government. And a shadow government itself, it makes the the opposition effective in the sense that you are like a government in waiting as an opposition. You know, they usually say, oh, an opposition is a government in waiting. When you have a shadow government and you have like a shadow minister of finance, that minister of finance does not have the executive power. That minister of finance, is not receiving salary. It does not have any office, does not have security details, except the opposition is rich enough to provide an office for him. But that shadow minister does not enjoy the paraphernalia of government. So I don't think that the Tinubu government really have anything majorly to be afraid if they understand what a shadow government is. And also, if the people that comprises the shadow government, if they act as it is done in the Western world, we need to put that in context. The Tinubu government has nothing to be afraid of. But then, will the people that form the shadow government, Utomi, Dele Farotimi and the likes, will they be able to act with decorum? Just as the people that form the shadow government in the Western world, just as the way they act. And another thing is that we need to be sincere with ourselves. A shadow government is not recognized in the Nigerian constitution. The Nigerian constitution as it is recognizes the federal government, the state government, the local government. There's nothing like a shadow government in the Nigerian constitution currently. So let's imagine that, there's some form of ignorance, there's some form of illiteracy in our political sphere. So maybe the word government that comes with the word shadow, maybe that is what is giving a lot of people headache, in the sense that if you say, oh, a shadow government, perhaps if you have not used the word government after the shadow, maybe the people will not feel scared, maybe they won't feel threatened, maybe they won't be running helter-skelter. But then again, if you look at it, Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself have something of a resemblance of a shadow government when they were in the opposition. Bola Ahmed Tinubu have stable standby people that are criticizing the actions of the government at that time. If the government of Goodluck Jonathan, if they take a step, there is a steady team that is criticizing the step of the government. For instance, I remember very well, let me use somebody that you all will know, which is Lai Mohammed. If the Jonathan government takes any step at that time, Lai Mohammed was a shadow minister of information at that point in time, because Lai Mohammed is not only playing the role of the spokesperson of the opposition, he was acting like a minister of information, like a shadow minister of information. And if you look at it, Lai Mohammed eventually became the Minister of Information because he was able to prove his worth when he was a shadow, in quote, Minister of Information. So it's a way for the opposition to sell itself. If Lai Mohammed hadn't acted like a shadow Minister of Information, maybe he wouldn't have been appointed as the Minister of Information when the opposition government took power. So we need to get that clearly. But maybe because Professor Utomi said shadow government, and the government, just got scared. And for a government that doesn't like accountability, of course, the government will get scared. But in the Nigerian constitution, we must emphasize that what is recognized is 3 layers of government, which is the federal government, the state government, and the local government. And I have asserted that there's one other apart from that, which is the street government. The street government is where the people that are involved in what we call informal economy, that are thriving through informal economy, that is where they belong. The street government is where the ungoverned spaces in Nigeria, where they belong, whereby there's inadequate security, there's no presence of government, except on election day that they will take ballot box to the place. So I have posited that there is a street government, but I will give more details on that when the matters arise. Some of you that are my ardent viewers would have heard me speak about this street government. But now, Pat Utomi is coming with a shadow government. A street government is a government that evolved as a result of lack of care, lack of education, lack of security, lack of infrastructure, and these people now have to survive on their own. They now have to be their own government. They now have to kind of like sort things out for themselves. They now have to survive beyond the formal and legitimate means. They have to go the extra mile, which I refer to as the informal economy that thrive on, kidnapping, armed robbery, and other social vices. Now, back to the shadow government. One thing we need to ask ourselves is, did the DSS, did they dialogue and orientate Professor Pat Utomi before arresting him and rushing to court? Because if I don't think they arrested him, they sued him. Before suing him, did they dialogue with Professor Pat Utomi? Because it won't be nice if you just pick up the man and you just sue him like that. No. Did you call him? Did you orientate him that, oh, Prof, this shadow government is not recognizing the Nigerian constitution. It is mainly for a parliamentary system. We are in a presidential system. We think that we should stop this shadow government of a thing. The government is not pleased with it. And because it is not written in the Nigerian constitution, it can only thrive if the government allows it, if the government is pleased with it. It is not your constitutional right to form a shadow government. So can you stop everything about this shadow government? Did they dialogue? Did they orientate Professor Pat Utomi before rushing to court? If they did not do that, then it leaves much to be desired on their own part as well. But then again, we must praise the DSS for heading to court by not harassing, by not arresting, intimidating, and just locking up Professor Pat Utomi. The DSS acted in a civil manner by just going to court because they are not displeased with the action of the professor. They decide to go to court. That is the civilized way of doing things. The court will look at it and in their own wisdom, they will interpret the action of Professor Pat Utomi and make a pronouncement whether the shadow government is allowed or not. So kudos to the DSS in the true sense of it for acting in a civil way. It's better to take the man to court than to be harassing, arresting, intimidating him and acting in a kind of like uncivilized manner. So kudos to the DSS on that. But the DSS, when I read what the DSS is praying for in court, they said it challenged the legitimacy. No, a shadow government does not challenge the legitimacy of government. It criticizes the action of government and suggests the way forward. So I think the DSS need to get that clearly. A shadow government, though, if you now practice a shadow government in Nigeria, the shadow government might now go beyond its powers to now be challenging the legitimacy of the government. That is another thing. But in this case, the shadow government is not to challenge the legitimacy of the government. The government already exists and it has a lifespan that its tenure would expire. So we need to get that clearly. And if you look at it, in a presidential system of government, do we really need a shadow government if the legislature is functional? The legislature, the Senate and the House of Representatives can criticize the action of government. They can suggest the way forward to the government. They have committees in the House of Representatives and in the Senate that are, looking into the affairs, oversighting, as they put in, the actions of the executive. But then maybe it is the failure of the Senate and the House of Representatives, jointly called the National Assembly, that has prompted the opposition to form a shadow government. Maybe it is because of the cross-carpeting of members of the opposition as they are trooping en masse to the APC that has trumped the opposition to now kind of like explore the shadow government. But in all of this, we hope that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu government will continue to act in a civilized manner, and the opposition will either wait. If it is not allowed, a shadow government is not allowed, we wait till 2027. It's been an interesting time with you. Subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past video. See you in my next video. I love you all sincerely.